Welcome to Intelligence Gateway.
System Vulnerabilities 1. System vulnerabilities are weaknesses or flaws in computer systems, networks, or software that can be exploited by attackers. These vulnerabilities can lead to unauthorized access, data breaches, or disruption of system operations. Common types of vulnerabilities include software flaws, network weaknesses, operating system vulnerabilities, web application vulnerabilities, human errors, physical vulnerabilities, and misconfigurations. Regular security measures such as patching, updates, security audits, and user awareness are essential for identifying and mitigating these vulnerabilities to ensure the security and integrity of systems. This lesson will learn about the different 1. Network vulnerabilities. 2. Organizational vulnerabilities. 3. Software vulnerabilities. 4. Operating system vulnerabilities. 1. Network vulnerabilities. Network vulnerabilities are weaknesses or flaws in the network infrastructure, protocols, or configurations that can be exploited by malicious individuals or entities. These vulnerabilities can compromise the security and availability of the network, allowing unauthorized access, data interception, or disruption of network services. Common network vulnerabilities include 1. Open ports. Unused or unnecessary open ports provide potential entry points for attackers to gain unauthorized access to the network. 2. Weak encryption protocols. Outdated or weak encryption algorithms can be exploited by attackers to eavesdrop on network communications or perform man-in-the-middle attacks. 3. Misconfigured firewalls. Inadequate firewall configurations can allow unauthorized network traffic to pass through and compromise the network security. 4. Unpatched network devices. Neglecting to apply security patches and updates to network devices such as routers, switches, or access points can leave them vulnerable to known exploits. 5. Weak or default passwords. Failure to use strong passwords or reliance on default credentials for network devices can make it easier for attackers to gain unauthorized access. 6. Insider threats. Malicious insiders or employees with unauthorized access can exploit their privileges to compromise the network security. To mitigate network vulnerabilities, it is essential to follow security best practices such as regularly updating network devices with the latest firmware, employing strong encryption protocols, implementing secure configurations for firewalls and access control lists, regularly auditing and monitoring network traffic, and enforcing strict password policies. Network administrators should also stay informed about emerging threats and vulnerabilities and take proactive measures to address them.
2. Organizational vulnerabilities. Organizational vulnerabilities refer to weaknesses or deficiencies within an organization's structure, processes, or practices that can be exploited by malicious actors to compromise its security, operations, or reputation. These vulnerabilities can manifest in various areas within an organization and can have serious consequences if not properly addressed. Here are some common organizational vulnerabilities.
1. Lack of security awareness. Insufficient training or awareness programs within an organization can lead to employees being unaware of potential security risks, making them more susceptible to social engineering attacks, phishing attempts, or unintentional disclosure of sensitive information. 2. Inadequate access controls. Weak or poorly implemented access controls can result in unauthorized individuals gaining access to sensitive data or systems. This includes issues such as weak password policies, shared or default credentials, or failure to revoke access rights for employees who have left the organization. 3. Poorly defined policies and procedures. Inconsistent or outdated security policies and procedures can create vulnerabilities. Organizations should establish clear guidelines for data handling, incident response, and security measures, and regularly review and update them to address emerging threats and changes in the business environment. 4. Insufficient physical security measures. Inadequate physical security measures, such as weak access controls to facilities, lack of surveillance systems, or failure to restrict physical access to critical infrastructure, can result in unauthorized individuals gaining physical access to sensitive areas or equipment. 5. Ineffective patch management. Failure to implement a robust patch management process can leave systems and software vulnerable to known security vulnerabilities. Regularly applying security patches and updates is crucial to mitigate potential risks. 6. Lack of a dedicated cybersecurity team. Organizations without a dedicated cybersecurity team or resources may struggle to effectively monitor, detect, and respond to security incidents or emerging threats. Having skilled professionals who can proactively manage and protect the organization's digital assets is essential. 3. Software vulnerabilities. Software vulnerabilities refer to weaknesses or flaws present in software applications that can be exploited by attackers to gain unauthorized access, manipulate data, or disrupt system functionality. These vulnerabilities can arise due to programming errors, design flaws, or inadequate security measures implemented during the software development process. Common types of software vulnerabilities include: 1. Buffer overflows. This occurs when a program attempts to store more data in a buffer than it can handle, leading to the overwriting of adjacent memory addresses. Attackers can exploit this vulnerability to execute arbitrary code or crash the application. 2. Input validation flaws. Insufficient validation of user input can enable attackers to inject malicious code, perform SQL injections, or bypass authentication mechanisms. 3. Cross-site scripting. XSS vulnerabilities occur when web applications fail to properly validate and sanitize user-supplied input, allowing attackers to inject malicious scripts into web pages viewed by other users. 4. Insecure direct object references. This vulnerability arises when applications expose internal references or identifiers, enabling attackers to access or manipulate sensitive data or resources directly. 5. Insecure cryptographic implementations. Weak encryption algorithms, improper key management, or insecure use of cryptographic functions can undermine the confidentiality and integrity of data. 6. Inadequate authentication and session management. Flaws in authentication mechanisms, such as weak passwords, session fixation, or session hijacking, can enable unauthorized access to user accounts or impersonation of legitimate users. 7. Insecure deserialization. Deserialization vulnerabilities occur when untrusted data is deserialized without proper validation, allowing attackers to execute arbitrary code, perform remote code execution, or carry out denial-of-service attacks. To mitigate software vulnerabilities, software developers should follow secure coding practices, such as input validation, output encoding, and proper error handling. Regular software updates and patches should be applied to address known vulnerabilities. Static and dynamic code analysis tools can be utilized to identify and fix vulnerabilities during the development process. Additionally, organizations should conduct regular security assessments and penetration testing to identify and remediate vulnerabilities in deployed software. 4. Operating system vulnerabilities. Operating system vulnerabilities are weaknesses or flaws in the underlying software that can be exploited by attackers to gain unauthorized access, manipulate system resources, or compromise the integrity and availability of the system. Common operating system vulnerabilities include: 1. Unpatched vulnerabilities. Failure to apply security updates and patches leaves the operating system susceptible to known vulnerabilities that can be exploited by attackers. 2. Privilege escalation. Flaws in the operating system's access control mechanisms can allow attackers to elevate their privileges, gaining higher levels of access and control over the system. 3. Remote code execution. Vulnerabilities that enable remote code execution allow attackers to execute arbitrary code on the system, potentially compromising its security and integrity. 4. Denial of service. DOS operating systems can be vulnerable to DOS attacks, where attackers overwhelm the system's resources, causing it to become unresponsive or crash. 5. Weak authentication and password policies. Insecure password policies, such as weak passwords or default credentials, can make it easier for attackers to gain unauthorized access to the operating system. 6. Misconfigured security settings. Inadequate or misconfigured security settings, such as improperly configured firewall rules or access control lists, can expose the operating system to various security risks. To address operating system vulnerabilities, it is crucial to regularly apply security patches and updates provided by the operating system vendor. Implementing strong password policies, such as using complex and unique passwords, helps mitigate the risk of unauthorized access. It is also essential to configure security settings properly and follow security best practices recommended by the operating system vendor. Employing intrusion detection and prevention systems, as well as using antivirus software, can further enhance the security of the Opera-tin G system. Regular security audits and vulnerability assessments can help identify and address any weaknesses or vulnerabilities in the operating system environment.
Thanks for watching. For more information, like, comment, and subscribe our channel.